Hi, folks.
Hey, Laszlos. I dropped the agenda in the chat, and let's see here. I can share my screen if it's helpful to go over the project board. Um, so where do we want to dive in? Gadgeter, either of you have updates on the project board? I know you've been taking a look at it. There's been a lot of work that's been merged. Thomas also. Could we just get an update on the specification?
Right. So I'll just begin with some of my views. So our aim is that by end of August we should be done on spec, and O's initial container PR was merged, and then it is followed up by my state transition function PR, which which O and June and I we basically had a discussion, and it it looks mostly good, but we will definitely have a relook. Basically, we'll iterate on it. And Toma, if you want to have a look at it, then you can also have a look at it, and then maybe we can discuss it. There is some refinement that needs to be done in terms of some functions need to be defined that have been left out, but 98% of it is covered, right? So you will be able to figure out the entire state transition function. We can go through it if we want at this call. And it has chaining and 3SF as the features. One of the key points. So do we want to go over it right now?
I would
Yeah,
love
we
to.
can. Yeah.
All right.
And before you started, as you were giving that overview, before you went to, you're working on STF, what'd you mention O's working on?
Yeah, so basically, I'm not sure what I was working on, but we basically discussed the STF PR, and then I will be working on the fork choice PR, which again I will be discussing with O, having some calls over it so that we can finalize that. This is the plan. And on the Genesis tooling, what we realized while talking was that we actually don't need E12 generator, because generating Genesis state is quite simple from the config itself. So each of the clients can generate the Genesis state from the config. So what we actually need is Ethereum Genesis generator, which basically generates the client configs. And even on the client config, we'll generate just one kind of config, so that every other client can just consume it, because all the clients are starting from zero. So it doesn't make any sense to have client specific configs. So we can just do one config, and that becomes a standard for all of the clients. Yeah.
Excellent. Sorry. Yeah, back to the STF walkthrough. Sounds great.
Yeah. So just let me then continue with the overview plan. So the plan is that we have the tooling ready by 5th September. In that sense, the Genesis tooling ready by 5th September, where we are able to generate the configs that we need. And in the meantime, if someone can, I think Toma or O can can work on the Python code. Then if we have spec test by 12th September, then we can get ready for interop by 19th September, basically pass all the spec test by 19th September, so that by 26th September, we can do a successful interop for DevNet 0, and then by 3rd October, we should be able to have the tooling up for DevNet 1, and in that tooling as well, what we only need is that a list of public-private key pairs for various validators, and again, we don't need the Genesis generator because Genesis can be generated by the clients using those config files. So I will think of the public-private key pairs as config files. So that is the deadline we have, and these are super strict deadlines, so that in the interop we can actually try for actual client interop. And so 3rd September is also the deadline to basically implement all the specs that we need for DevNet 1.
Yep, I will check that and let you know what I can do and what I cannot do, but I will definitely check that to start implementing the Python stuff.
Right, cool. So with that, let's deep dive into the STF spec. All right, I can't share why other participant is sharing. Also, generally, my Zoom dies when I try to share, so it would be better if you can directly share, Will.
Sure. Yeah, you want to
I
drop
have
the link? Okay.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can go to files.
Okay. Remind me, is my screen still actively shared? Yeah, it looks like it. Okay. So you said you have files changed. Okay.
Right, so this is just the header that will generate, auto-generate. Let's go down. Right, so what I have mentioned in the first section is what are the features that we are going for. If you can scroll a little bit up. Right, so the features are chaining. So let's scroll down. And then 3SF mini justification and finalization. There will be no signatures. So basically it's empty signatures. There is no aggregation. There is round robin proposals, and there are simplified validators. So that basically proposal and voting is a trusted process because there are no signatures, and there is even no validator structure in the state as well. So there is no deposit activation, withdrawal, or slashing. So actually there is no validator cycle, and each validator has a weight of 1. And yeah. So this is that the Genesis can be generated very easily. So if we go to the Genesis part, so generating Genesis requires just 2 config variables, which is Genesis time and num validators. And we have a very simplified Genesis generation function based on the lines of how beacon Genesis is generated. We basically set the Genesis time and num validators in the state, as well as set the latest block header to an empty block header, but with the body root of the hash tree root of empty block body, which is how we do it in the beacon as well. And then the Genesis block is basically, empty block with state root set to the Genesis state. Now we can go to the state transition function. In the notable thing in the state transition function is that we are validating signatures outside. So in the beacon state transition, signature validation is inside the state transition, but here we are getting a flag from outside the state transition function that whether the signatures are valid or not. But other things are similar to how beacon state transition works. So basically we have first process slots, which basically make sure that you are able, so we fast forwarded state to the pre-state of this particular slot, which is what process slots does. And then we process the block. And the last step is basically validating that block state root actually matches the state root of the tree. So when we look at process slots, it's very similar to how, yes, Silas?
Yeah, why the signature verification is outside?
Yeah, basically the signature verification is right now outside for the reasons. So first of all, we want state transition function to be light for the prover. So that, there isn't much computation that is going on. And second, so the signatures for the attestations, it will be an aggregated signature. And so basically we need to sort of figure out whether we can run it inside the prover itself, that particular verification, because it itself would be some sort of a ZKVM running to verify the signature. So we need to figure that part out. And basically we want to keep the state transition function light in that manner. Generally, the way clients also implement it is that, they just take the batch signatures in the block, they batch it up, and then they verify it.
Okay, so in some sense, it's kind of temporary outside because it's still not solved.
Sorry?
I mean, now it's temporary outside because we just want to have a good proving time, right? And once it will be figured out how exactly the signature aggregation will be done and how exactly the proving will be done, likely it will change.
We can come back on this, but in my opinion, I think we should just keep it outside the main state transition function, because to keep it lighter. But again, I don't have a very hard stance as of now because I don't know that part totally fully. But especially for blocks signature validation, for example, that this is now a signature hash verification that will happen, hash signature verification that will happen, and it might be computationally intensive. So whether it's good for ZKVM, whether it's light for ZKVM, or ZKVMs can do it in a fast manner that we can directly have it inside, I'm not sure about that, but yes, we can definitely come back on this.
Thanks.
Cool.
I think you're at the state root.
Yeah, so this state root validation is also similar to how it happens in the beacon. Now coming to process slots, so the notable thing is that we basically don't have any process epoch over here because there is no epoch transition. So we just process each of the slot and move state slot forward one by one till we reach the pre-state of the current block. So that is what is happening. Process slot is very similar to how it happens in the beacon consensus. So basically, if we have latest block header state root as empty, so basically we just fill it with the current state root, which is the start of which is the pre-state for this particular block. And basically this helps us establish in chaining. So the next process is, then we process the block, and in block there are two things. We process the block header and then we process the operations. Again, in processing operations, we have actually processing of the attestation / votes. That is the only feature we have right now. And in process block header, we basically do similar things to how beacon consensus do process block header. So you will notice that to verify the proposer index, we are just doing the round robin verification that block.slot modulo state.config.num validators. So that is a notable change over here. And then the next line is where we establish the chaining that block.parent root is hash tree root of state.latest block header. So this this establishes the chaining. And coming to the 3SF related changes. So here in 3SF Mini, the Genesis happens at slot 1, but we have kept Genesis block at slot 0 itself, and block 1 is the first block. In 3SF Mini, block 2 is the first block. So basically, we did some modifications to bring it back to how we do it, how we are used to right now. So there is this special treatment for that. If the state was at Genesis state, then basically we update it as justified, and it is finalized to the Genesis root, which is block.parent root, because we have already established chaining at this point. And then what we do is basically so since now the parent, so now the voting can happen till the parent. So we basically update historical block hashes and justified slots. So just to basically, we push parent into historical block hashes, and justified slots we either push true or false depending upon whether the parent is Genesis or not, because Genesis is always justified and finalized. And then again, just to if there were any empty slots between the parent block and this particular block, then we basically add empty hashes for those empty slots in the historical block hash, and also push false in the justified slots, so that to maintain the integrity of these two structures that we will use in 3SF Mini. And then the last bit is to update the latest block header, which is how we do it in Beacon Consensus. Then we can move to process operations, which is where the main 3SF Mini magic happens. Please scroll down. So we process attestations. We process vote by vote. So one thing to note is that in 3SF Mini is that the state has flattened object of justifications. So there is a justification map in 3SF Mini, which basically is a map of the roots to the array of validators that have justified it. Can you just scroll back up? So justifications is a map from root to the validators that have justified it, and basically we go over the latest vote of each of the validators and see which roots they have justified, and then try to see whether something has been justified more than by the 2/3 of the validators, and we justify it, and then we try to finalize the source of it. So basically then this in the current state, which is SSD state, we have this flattened into two structures, which are justification roots and justification validators, I think. But we reconstruct back our in-memory object over here, which we are saying are justifications, which map directly to the 3SF Mini justifications, and then there is this helper function get justification that does that. So that is the only notable thing, which is sort of a departure from 3SF Mini. Then for each of the votes, we start processing it. Here again, there is an additional condition that I added based upon Zeem experimentation. So that if the target is already justified as well, then you don't process that vote. But apart from that, these are all the similar. The rest of these conditions are similar, and these conditions are basically whether you want to process this vote or not. And if, for example, there is a vote that is not in justifications map, then you basically populate that map with some false entries, so that it's like initialization. And coming to the next step, which is line 254, is where basically if the validator is voting for some target route, you basically flag it to true in your justifications map. And then you count whether how many validators are voting for the target route. And if 2/3 of the validators are voting for the target route, basically you justify that target. And then you clear up your justifications map, basically because justifications map get reflattened back to the SSZ state. So you don't really want to track justifications for the blocks that have already been justified. So we delete that, and then we try to see whether you can finalize the source, which is very similar to which is exactly how it happens in the 3SF mini. And in the end, then basically, you reflatten back these justifications to the SSZ structures in the state. So get justification and set justifications are the helper functions that we still need to define, and we'll fill it up. But rest of the state transition function is done.
Amazing. Like small questions, not about the content, because I listened to your presentation and I will go back to the MD stuff to really understand everything by myself to compare with what I have understood there. But first question, where are you at the review process? Do you all clients agreed on this, or is there some points where maybe there will be evolution and where you need to refine and have an agreement? And second question is, did you generate this code using Python and already tested it, or you just wrote that into the MD stuff?
Yeah, so with regard to modifications, I don't think there are any modifications that will be required. We'll just need to add the definitions for get justification and set justification, so that we have all the helper functions available, so that clients can then code it up in the best form that is suitable to their client language. But apart from that, I think everything is good. What I will also do is I will go and change Zim code on basis of this particular PR and sort of re-verify that in our code that everything is working good, because there I made some departures from how we implemented it in Zim as well. So there are some slight departures because I rearranged some bits over here. But what I will do is I'll go back and sort of also verify in Zim the correctness of this code, and in that way, we will basically have sort of one verification, and maybe Ream team can also do it in the meantime. The second bit about Python is that, yeah, so I basically put it together in the sense, but I have not verified that if all the syntax, if there are no syntax errors in Python. But mostly this should work out. And yeah, O and June, basically they said that they would be helping me with the correctness of the Python syntax. Yeah.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
Is there anything in containers to review, Gajner?
Yeah, container is just this additional structure that was missing over there to add block header, but it's very straightforward.
Very cool. That was great. I love listening to this.
So now the follow-up to this will be the fork choice that me and O will sort of discuss and finalize. And then I think the spec-wise, DevNet 0 spec will be done. In DevNet 1, in fact, the spec change would be quite small, because we would be adding on top of that would be signatures, and there is more figuring out over there than basically a very little change on the STF itself, because so where signature validation is where the things will come up, and we'll introduce validators array in the state and sort of maintain it a bit. But apart from that, basically this will very simply translate to DevNet 1 spec as well.
And you had a due date of September 5th for the DevNet spec?
Yeah, so yes, so we can do September 5th for DevNet 1 spec if we can. So DevNet 0 spec is end of this month. For DevNet 1, we can have the due date of September 5th, so that parallel things can be done. And for that, basically, if we can resolve few questions regarding key types, I think that would be good. So that is the only pending thing that I see over there, apart from the fact that, okay, what are the exact bytes for signatures and for public key. So those are the questions I think that are open-ended as of now.
So could you repeat the questions? The public key pair?
Yeah, so the questions that are so basically we need two key types over here, which is basically for which we have also discussed in post-quantum group. So one key type is for attestation, and the other key type is for block signature. And so these are the two key types that we need now. Whether we'll have, so what kind of scheme do we have to support these two key types, and going forward, maybe other key types that will come for signing other messages like slashing, etc. So this is one primary question that needs to be resolved. And the second question that needs to be resolved is what are the exact bytes, because when we say it's 3 KB, so what is the exact byte number that we can calculate from the params that we have chosen, not only for signature, but also for example, public key that will enroll in the state itself. So that was my second question in post-quantum group, that if public key so basically the Merkle root of the SIG hash scheme. So what is the size for it? If it's 8 field elements or 7 field elements, okay, we have over here.
Yeah, so maybe while we are on the screen, so this is a PR I just opened this afternoon. Basically, changing the current container specs contain only bytes 32 for block signatures and vote signatures. What I changed here is to make it more accurately represent the actual signature size using the parameters that I think it was Thomas that merged the specs in for XMSS. But there's still quite a bit of difference here. So I kind of like simplify it to just like 3 keys here, the path, randomness, and the hashes. But if we go look into like the actual XMSS interface that Thomas merged, it's actually the structure is right there, actually, the signature, class signature there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the actual signature of like the actual structure of the path, the randomness, and the hashes is actually a bit more complicated. You have a few inner keys inside these like paths and hashes. But I chose to omit this because for DevNet 0 we are not actually implementing the signature anyway. So having something representing like I think this is like approximately close enough. I think there's a lot more to discuss about like how do we actually represent those like inner structure inside like something that's actually SSC serializable. So I think that's still to be discussed in DevNet 1.
So I have sort of feedback over here in the sense that I would not want a signature container over here, because as such, with regard to clients, basically, this could just be some flat bytes that can be dealt, and this serialization, deserialization can be dealt inside the signature library as well, because then basically block signature, which is fixed amount of bytes, and then aggregated signatures, which are variable amount of bytes. So basically the client does not really need to deal with them on the client level. And what we can do is we can sort of have uh, basically a non-fixed signature size. That way, basically, we can just get away from thinking what is the exact signature size do we need right now. We can say that, okay, we can have a max list, byte list over here, which basically says that, okay, max 4K byte list we can keep for signature.
So Gaijiner's proposal is to just like maybe flatten the signature container entirely, right? And then maybe just use like a vector of certain number of bytes, like 4,000 bytes or something. Is that the proposal? Right.
Yep, that is the proposal. Otherwise, we'll basically at least need to differentiate between block signature and aggregated signature.
Yeah, I guess like for me that's fine. Like because this is basically just mock signature anyway, so flattened like byte vectors sounds fine to me. Easier to implement as well. Yeah. Um, I think there was someone else who also chimed in. I okay, maybe not. So yeah, so this PR is still open in the lean specs repo. So anyone wants to like add your thoughts in, feel free to. But I guess like I guess like a flattened bytes vector is probably easier to implement just for DevNet 0, and then we can discuss the actual structure for DevNet 1.
Great.
I meant this for DevNet 1 because what we were saying was that can we freeze specs for DevNet 1 by 5th September? And basically, to do that, we can work for the PRs on the first week of September for DevNet 1 spec, because it's best to close out the spec early on. And for that, I think even for DevNet 1, we should go for flat bytes as well, because client doesn't need to know the actual internal structure of the signature. And it is good in the sense that if, for example, signature scheme changes in some way, or the tree height changes some way, uh, uh, then basically client doesn't need to know anything about that.
So Gajinder, this is the last call before the self-imposed DevNet 0 spec is due, 8/31. Are there any blockers that you want to discuss, or O or anyone else, areas of discussion topics or things that, unknowns that need to be resolved?
Yeah, I think for DevNet 0, there I don't see any blockers. What do you think?
On the client implementation, I think we are good. I'm saying this without actually asking the team, but I guess like we're good. One of the concern we had was around the infrastructure for running the DevNets. I asked Guillaume yesterday, and it seems like he's taking care of that with Eat Panda Ops. So basically like not doing anything at all. And I think the Ream team is basically just standing by. If there's any help that you'd like, feel free to let us know. But otherwise, like we are not touching anything on the infrastructure side at all.
But you will still have to make sure that Ream is Docker compatible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question regarding this, except I just forget. Oh yeah, weren't you guys supposed to get Dora to work? You guys being the Ream team, I got this impression, but if it's not the case, is somebody working on Dora?
Actually, I was assigned to handle Dora, but I'm not that much progress is on. So, and I'm afraid that current Dora structure isn't fit well in our lean DevNet structure. So, yeah. So I'd like to suggest that. So, do we really need Dora at PQ DevNet 0 right now?
I think we need at least something like Forkmon, something like that, so we know that basically, you know, what forks are in the DevNet and whether whether, you know, how many clients are agreeing or not. I think that would be pretty amazing to have if we can have that, and Forkmon might be a very simple tool considered to what Dora is.
Yeah, Forkman could be good enough for now. Yeah, this is I mean, this is not surprising what you're telling me. Dora is a beast. It's a great piece of software, but unfortunately, it's very like a lot of things are beacon chain specific, and I had to deal with it with my Verkle stuff. Just adding a few things. It's I mean, you have to find your way around. It's once you know, it's not that hard, but it's a bit yeah, it's a bit overwhelming. Yeah, if we can just get Forkman to work, I think it's good enough. Good question. Where is Forkman? I'm pretty sure that's Holyman who did this. Okay, if I find it, I will send it to you after this call.
Great. Yeah, there was a question earlier in the chat. Camille, you had noted a while back an interest in having a client participate in the DevNet series. Just curious your current thinking on that, and if you're planning to.
Yeah, we do plan to do this. Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot be super active as it's basically just 2 people working on that right now. We're basically finishing up with some libp2p stuff, so just finished the gossip sub integration, and yeah, integrating all of that stuff into the node itself. So yeah, there will be basically gossip sub, SSD, and so on. So yeah, we plan to do this. But yeah, but resources are kind of limited. But yeah, the target it's still there to implement. Yeah.
One question that I had, and I forgot to mention it anyway, was that when we take hash tree root or any of the sort of hashing in Poseidon 2, so we are expecting the output as 32 bytes, right? Of any hashing function that we'll use, especially Poseidon 2 in SSZ. Toma, I think maybe you might be able to answer this.
Kama, you're muted if you're responding.
Sorry, my screen frozen. Yeah, your question were like if the signature output are 32 bits, right? This was can you repeat your question because
No, my question was that in SSZ, since we are replacing SHA-256 hasher by Poseidon 2, basically, so the output of the hasher remains 32 bytes, right?
we need to check because these are field elements as the output of Poseidon. So this is different from SHA. So we need to check how to do this. I'm not exactly sure how to manage this, but everything in Poseidon are field elements. So basically koala bear elements. But of course, then we can transform that into bytes.
Yeah, I think this is one of the open questions for DevNet 0, I guess.
Yep.
Or do you think that we should move Poseidon 2 to DevNet 1 and just continue DevNet 0 SHA?
We can do this as well. This is not a problem. Like in any case, like SHA is also implemented for the signature as well. So we could even choose SHA for the signature. This is not a problem. The final choice will be Poseidon, but if this is a broker, then we can go to the SHA route.
Yeah, I guess for now, for SSD, we can just do SHA-256. And the reason to go to Poseidon for that would be to basically make the proving cycles faster. But then that is something that we can tackle later on.
Exactly, yeah. This is the main objective.
All right, so I'll just summarize that we have decided to use SHA-256 in SSZ right now, and maybe we'll update it later on and at some later DevNet.
Great. I think that was all that I had on my agenda. Justin, I saw that the call next Friday is on the multi-sig spec. Is there anything that you wanted to ask for from the group, or if you have everything that you need for that call?
Nope, I think we're good. I think mostly going to be Emil and Thomas presenting, and it's a fairly self-contained subspec, so all good.
Cool. Gail?
Yeah, I have two topics I would like to discuss. Hopefully they're super fast. One of them is just a confirmation. So I talked to PK about the Genesis, PK or Philip from East Panda Ops about the Genesis generator. And he was just telling me, you know, I just need a number of, because it's round robin, I don't need the signatures at all. I don't need a tool to dump the signatures. I just need to know the number of validators, and that will be good enough. Is that still? I just wanted to confirm that this is still the picture we have. This is still what we want to do for the DevNet 0, because if that's the case, then the tool is more or less ready, and there's no extra work for us to achieve. Yeah, can someone confirm this, or just point me to the right direction so that I can get that to work with Philip?
So on this, me and we agreed that we don't even need a Genesis generator, in the sense that we don't need a Genesis SSD file, because the two config variables that we need for Genesis are Genesis time and num validators, and that is something that we can just pick from the config and generate the Genesis on fly inside our clients as itself. So in that sense, we don't actually Genesis generator even for DevNet 1 as well.
But
and
just,
right now
just
I'm that why do we even need Genesis generator on Beacon Genesis? Because the Genesis itself is very deterministic and very config based. So in that sense, we actually don't need a Genesis generator anywhere.
Well, we kind of do in whole kurtosis system to use kurtosis, but it can be just an empty file, or I mean, we don't have to. It can just be a binary that does nothing. That's fine. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that we don't need to go through this process of taking in all the transactions to do the Genesis, basically. But it seems to be the case. Yeah. The second question is about Grafana. So I have a task on my end to like O said before. I have a task on my side to deal with to deal with this problem on along with ETH FinOps. I want to create an issue, so I already asked people for their GitHub accounts so that they can the GitHub handles so that they can be given access. The question is that of the dashboard. So from what I understand, they are going to run or DevOps actually, not ETH FinOps. DevOps is going to run the Grafana instances. We just need to connect to it. I just need to figure out if that thing that Mercy has done in our current repo is good enough for everybody. So there's a YML file. I'm sorry, I'm on mobile. I can't copy paste it, but there's a YML file that corresponds to the Grafana dashboards, and I would want to give it to ETH Printer Ops, or sorry, to DevOps actually, and they can actually they can run this dashboard. I just want to know if this is something we have on just on the Zim side, or if Reem would also be interested in adding something. So yeah, I just basically need Mercy and other people from Reem to agree on the dashboard and tell me that this is what this is what we want. And yeah, right, Quadrivium. I haven't really been in contact with them, so if someone can send them my way, because there's also the question of building the image, the Docker image. So I did this for Reem and Zim. Yeah, I don't have any contact that I can think of at Quadrivium. So
yeah, I'm here. You can contact me. Yeah, it's I don't know. We can contact maybe on Telegram.
Yeah, actually, do you know how to find me? Because I have no idea how to. Oh yeah, on the PQ testnet thing.
I can. Yeah, I'll ping you. I can find you.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so I can also help with this, but right. So we have this this format, this dashboard that I don't want to manage inside the Zim repository. So we can put it in a different repository if it's Zim specific. But I think it would make sense to agree on the dashboard thing, and we could all yeah, I could go to DevOps and say, hey, this is what we need to build. Add those people, run this instance. We're going to send data to it, and yeah, that would be so. The ball is in every team's court to get back to me on this, so that we can agree, and I can finally create the dashboards.
And this is something we want in place for DevNet 0, correct?
Exactly. Well, and further DevNets, but yes, it's specifically for DevNet 0.
Okay, great. So yeah, that excellent. I'll add something to the project board. I don't know if anyone has immediate thoughts that they want to add to Guillaume's request, or if you can just go ahead and provide those YAMLs.
Yeah, so on the Grafana, Reem has like we have our own template, dashboard template right now, but it's very minimal. Like it's only showing the head slots, justified slots, finalized slots, and some metrics on like the time it takes to initialize a block, the time it takes to compute the state root, to process all the votes inside the block, and that's basically it. So I think we have some rough idea of what we want to track, but I guess like not so sure what's the best format. Like if you already have like a template or something, or a YAML config, something for us to review, I'm happy to review those as well.
I mean,
Or
to be
otherwise, like,
fair, yeah, I'm also not sure what we have, but that's why I say like I would like to agree on this so that I can go and create one dashboard. Ultimately, we can have as many dashboards as clients, but it would be nice to be able to to check. I mean, I don't know, like for when we do forks in in the EL land, we like to compare how the clients are behaving to make sure there's nothing funky going on with the fork, someone falling off the rails and doing this kind of things. So yeah, I mean, okay, now there's an issue. We can agree on what we want. We can just pull that and see either the lowest common denominator, but at least get the infrastructure started so that we can monitor what's going on during the test net and see if something goes wrong.
Great. Yeah, if we could kind of go through the rest of these and make sure that we have ownership for the remaining DevNet 0 critical path tasks, that'd be great. I think you sort of eyeballed that we're deficient on assigned needs. Is there anything that jumps out at you, or do you kick us off?
Yeah, so actually, I assigned stuff that I am taking ownership of. The rest, I think, like some of them probably can be close, right? The one to do with Genesis state, or I'm not so sure, like the number 7 there.
Genesis state issues are mostly Zeem owned, but number 7 we decided with over that we don't even need, because this is just pure config, and clients will be able to just generate a Genesis on the fly. So we can
Okay.
in fact close Genesis this particular to generate SSD Genesis. Yes, so we basically need to figure out Ethereum Genesis generator, which basically generates the config files that the clients will be able to use to read the config. And so there are three files. I think they are, so these are the files. I'm not sure now. There are 3 or 4. So one file is the config file. And the second file was Genesis SSD file, but we don't need it anymore. And the third file I think we need is the peer ENR file. And I think this is peer ENRs. I think this is what we need, so that we can start the clients in kurtosis. For DevNet 1, then we'll have an additional step over here, which will be to generate, for example, 100 key pairs, which will be used to enroll them in Genesis. But for DevNet 0, that is what we need.
Who can own this?
This is owned by GM. GM,
Ballet.
I just
I mean, yeah, technically it's PK, but yeah, I'm following that.
Oh, okay, I'll note that. Okay.
And then the Ethereum package for kurtosis is also owned by Zeem. You can assign it to me.
Okay. Or can set up Docker image builder.
I think GM is already working on this.
Yeah, it's more. I mean, it's done. It's done except for Quadrivium, but we're talking about this. So yeah, I think we could close this, and when Quadrivium is ready to go, we will add it. It's just it's just a 5-minute thing.
Yeah, so one missing item over there is basically having the CLI to generate the PQ key pairs. So that is something that we also need to add to Docker image builder as well.
So I'll close that, or I'll consider it done for now. Plan the reference spec tests. Sorry, Mercy.
Yeah, I
Put
wanted
the
to ask,
reference.
the CLI, is it the same thing that I did? Sorry, Gijanta, I wanted to know, the CLI you're talking about, is it the same CLI thing wrapper that I did?
Yes, this is the same CLI which I asked you that, generate 100 keys or something like that.
I have that also in mind about the CLI to discuss with Benedict. He's right now on holidays, but to see, as this is something that you will all need as a client, if this is something that we can add to the REST repo of the signature so that you can just call the CLI from there and don't have to do that on your own. So I will check with Benedict once he comes back from holidays. Anyway, I don't have merging rights on this repo, so I need him to check.
So I
Question
think
though.
as client global so that we can generate public keys to enroll in the Genesis state. So we need as global as well as we might need some sort of programmatic invocation by the clients where the clients would want to generate private keys for some validators based on whatever is the starting seed. So
Right.
I think both
So-
of the forms will be required.
Gajendra, just wondering, would the key store, the EIP that we are working on, would that make sense here? Or rather than having a CLI tool that would generate this in plain text, which is likely to have issues later on? I mean, unlike the BLS keys, the key generation of post-quantum is quite time consuming and it would be quite expensive if keys are leaked, right? So
Yeah, so I'm assuming all of these keys start with some particular seed, which is what we will, for example, encode in the BLI key store, right? So in the key store, extended key store, that we basically coordinated on. But I think what we require for DevNet 1 purposes is that a list of keys that are a list of public keys that are generated for validators, and then either they are sort of referenced to a private the secret directory or to the as well as to the seed that the secret key the seed that was used for the secret key generation. So I think that is the only important information that we need right now, both for Genesis purposes as well as client basically reading up their assigned validator IDs and keys, and basically then initializing their key in memory using already pre-generated data file, the pre-generated secret directory. So I think this would work fine for now, but we should definitely evolve it to that particular key store format.
all right, let's take up this discussion on the key store EIP separately. This is fine for me. Thank you.
Super.
It looks, I don't know, it seems like the rest of the things that don't have owners right now can be discussed next week after the spec is done. But what from the time that the spec is done till the time that we're launching DevNet 0, what's the anticipated kind of float date within there?
So we were thinking that if the spec is done by end of this month, and if we can have when can we have test cases built on it, I think that would sort of be a critical milestone, because once we have the test cases, then we can check our clients against it. Changing our current, for example, Zeem to the current DevNet 0 spec is not hard. it can be done in a week. So the question is that maybe when can we get some reference test? Because then we'll give 1 week for reference test, and then next week we can try for interop.
Great. And then the DevNet, I tried to create at the start of this process like a ETH Panda Ops-esque DevNet spec, like one sheeter. Is this something that we want to update, going into the the end of the month and try to maintain these from DevNet to DevNet? Is there a better process to be able to capture like in a a single index like format? Hey, this is all the specs that were encapsulated in this DevNet. These are the tests, the success criteria, so on and so forth.
I think we can trim a lot of these. For example, like the top part there about like networking and gossip and stuff. I think that's already part of the lean specs.
Okay.
I guess there's a bit of like project management stuff that's like in the middle. I think those parts can also become part of the board. So I guess overall, I think we can try to kind of like split these into their proper places and close this one down, I think.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. We're a minute or two over. Any parting thoughts? All right. Great call. Yeah, Gazinder, I really like the format of walking through the spec. That helps me a lot. If people enjoy doing that, I would look forward to having a section or two that we go through each call, just to kind of help get everyone really familiarized with not just the details, but like the taxonomy of the spec and what's where. And yeah, I thought it was great. Excellent.
Amazing.
See you all.
Yep.
See you,
Okay,
thank you,
thank
Will.
you.
Thanks, guys. Amazing.
Thank you.